We will call the February meeting of the City Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. One nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Heidi?
Here.
Blinker? Reynolds?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Allersmeyer? Here. Williamson?
Here.
Downing?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to briefly recess for the purpose of a public hearing on Resolution 2014-04. Mr. Campbell. Is there a second? Mr. Heidi?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We are now in a brief recess for the purpose of hearing Resolution 2014-04.
A resolution confirming the designation of certain real estate as an economic revitalization area and approval of an application by the Tate & Lyle Ingredients Americas LLC for property tax abatement.
Thank you. This is the opportunity for any members of the public or the audience to make any comment or ask any questions about this particular resolution. It was passed last month for first reading, and I think it's on the agenda later on for tonight's meeting for final approval. So is there any members of the public that wish to address that or make comments? Any thoughts or comments by members of the council? Is there a motion to reconvene? Mr. Campbell? And Ms. Allersmeyer?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the January 6, 2014 meeting. Mr. Campbell?
I move those minutes be approved as communicated.
Thank you. Ms. Williamson?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
And how about reports of city offices?
Clerk's office, December. Waterworks Department, December. Water Pollution Control Department, December. Fleet Maintenance, December. Police, November and December.
Thank you. Those are reports that are filed regularly with the clerk's office, and they are up at the clerk's office available for review during the regular business hours for anyone who's interested. Let's proceed now to ordinance for second reading.
Ordinance 2014-01, an ordinance to transfer money from the Cumulative Capital Development Fund to Rainy Day Fund.
What's the pleasure of the council, Mr. Brown?
Mr. President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2014-01.
Thank you, Mr. Datton.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider ordinance 2014 for second and final reading. Mr. Jones.
Mr. President, Mike Jones, Controller, Council. As we have said many times before, this is just taking several years of savings from this fund and moving it to the rainy day, and hopefully it doesn't rain.
Can you, just for the public, tell us how much we're transferring and then what that will bring the fund to?
$300,000, and it'll bring the fund to $2.8 million, and our stated goal has been to get to 10% of the general fund budget, which would take a little over $3 million, and gives us a cushion of about 6 weeks to operate on should we have an emergency.
Thank you. Any questions by the council, Mr. Jones? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye. Any questions or comments by council? Any questions or comments by members of the audience on ordinance 2014-01 regarding the rainy day fund? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote on the ordinance.
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll move now to ordinances for first reading, starting with ordinance 2014-02.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Uzo Amendment Number 80.
And what's the pleasure of the council? Campbell.
I move for passage of ordinance.
Mr. Heidi.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to consider 2014-02, the ordinance regarding amending the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County. The presenter on this?
Kevin Riley's here that can, and I can add anything that
Okay. Mr.
council
Riley.
needs.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Riley with Riley & Teeter and Schreier. We represent Schumann Properties. We were involved early on, or the stages early on in getting this
Sorry. Go ahead.
We've been involved from the very early stages to get this amendment to this point. Schuman Properties is the developer of a development known as Hawthorne Meadows that was approved several years ago. There were some issues with its zoning classification and the use or how that property was developed that came up and kind of led to the passage or led to this amendment being proposed. The effect of this proposal is that it will allow multiple duplexes on a single R2 lot, provided that that lot or that those duplexes are in single ownership. These amendments, and actually it's 2014-02 and 2014-03 are related. These amendments were approved by the county commissioners this morning. I would note that we are in favor of the amendments and ask that you approve them. I'm happy to answer any other questions or offer any clarification that you need.
Could you clarify that single owner?
Sure. There will be one owner of every duplex unit on that lot. So in this case, if I develop the property, I will own every single duplex on that single lot. Yes. So there can be multiple duplexes on one lot, but all of those duplexes have to be owned by the same person or company.
Type of setup, the owner going to be occupying that one.
It is not required. For instance, in this case with the Hawthorne Meadows, you have multiple duplexes. They're rented out. So it's just a matter of ownership, not occupation.
If I can give a little more explanation, there was always R2 duplexes on a one duplex that could be owner occupied in half. What the ordinance didn't allow is to have the less restricted multifamily development which a duplex apartment complex would create. So what this did was allowed the simple thing is it changed the definition of multifamily dwelling to allow duplex apartment complexes in R2 zones so that you wouldn't have to have a 5-unit or 10-unit or 20-unit building. You could actually do 2-unit buildings in an apartment complex like was done out at Hawthorne Ridge and have one owner to maintain uniformity of the trash pickup. If the council recalls, we made a requirement that the owner of that kind of a duplex development be required to maintain the streets, maintain the trash pickup, maintain the lawns, so that you had uniformity as opposed to the duplex developments that have had multiple owners, weren't owner occupied either, but you might have 10 duplexes owned by 8 different landlords and they weren't maintained in uniformity and so forth. So this allows, because I believe that the council was more interested in not having larger multifamily complexes in the city. This allows for some lower density development if there is any R2 zone land.
Does this mean that all duplexes in the future will be in a group?
No. This merely allows that to happen. You can still have somebody build a duplex on one R2 lot, one duplex, live in half of it and rent half of it. What this, under the conflict in the prior ordinances, you couldn't do a multi-family duplex apartment complex. This allows it now, but you're still going to have the single duplex possibility. That's always existed. But the way the ordinance was drafted is multifamily required more than a duplex. And so this allows multifamily to be only duplex buildings too. So they had to, basically it's changing the definition of multifamily dwelling to allow duplex apartment complexes, and it's changing the next ordinance that you're going to look at is multifamily subdivisions can also include duplex apartments. It won't necessarily negate it, but I don't believe there's really much R3 land currently remaining in the city of Lafayette, so that anybody that wants to do a large complex will have to come to the city council for rezone. You're either going to be rezoning agriculture or residential, because I don't believe there's much R3 left that hasn't been already built on it within the city limits.
I think this can help reduce to getting zoning property to R3, because it can now be these type of developments can be in R2, whereas before the interpretation, at least by area plan staff, was that it had to be R3.
Any other questions by council of Mr. Riley? Thank you. Any other comments by council before we open up public discussion? Any members in the audience or the public wish to come forward and comment on this ordinance 2014-02 regarding the definition of multifamily dwelling? And as you heard, the next ordinance that we're going to take up talks really about the same concept. It's just a changing of the definition of multifamily subdivision, but it's the same discussion would apply to both.
Right.
So you're welcome to make your comments known now if there are any. All right. Any other final thoughts by council? A roll call vote on ordinance 2014-02.
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. The ordinance is passed. Ordinance 2014-03.
An ordinance to amend the subdivision ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, USO Amendment Number 8.
With the pleasure of the council, Ms. Williams.
I move for passage of ordinance 2014-03 on first and final reading.
Down.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to consider ordinance 2014-03 regarding the multifamily subdivision definition. And just for the record, I'll just note that we previously had the similar discussion on the previous ordinance. I won't ask Mr. Riley to get up again. Or Mr. Chosnick, do you have any other further
No,
comments on this?
unless there are any questions.
Okay. Any questions on this by council? Any additional comment by members of the public on this ordinance regarding definition of multifamily subdivision? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. The ordinance is passed. Next ordinance, 2014-04.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana to rezone certain real estate from R3 to NV, 1800 Union Street. Michael Daugherty, petitioner.
And what's the pleasure of council? Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. President, I move to passage of 2014-04.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to consider resolution 2014-04. Is there someone to present the ordinance?
Mr. President and Council, Michael Daugherty, on behalf of the property. Would be open to any questions. Pretty much moving our business. This is a first purchase of real estate for our business. We're an IT consulting firm that has outgrown our current property that we're leasing over on Teal Road, and just moving our operation into this business.
Okay,
Have you got a buyer for the property on Teal Road?
Actually, it was owned by somebody else, the person we were leasing it from, so they're just taking over the entire portion of it.
Any other questions?
Did I happen to tell you folks about Mr. Fannin? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, you did. Just checking to see if you're paying attention.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Any questions or any comments by council? Any comments by members of the public regarding ordinance 2014-04? Seeing none, any further final thoughts or comments? We will have a roll call vote.
I'm glad to see a building being recycled instead of sitting back. I'm glad to see the nerd quotient going up in my neighborhood.
All right, we'll have a roll call vote.
Heidi?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. The ordinance is passed. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 2014-04.
A resolution confirming the designation of certain real estate as an economic revitalization area and approval of an application by Tate & Lyle Ingredients Americas LLC for the property tax abatement.
Pleasure of council. Mr. Brown.
Mr. President, I move that we hear and approve Resolution 2014-04.
Thank you. Ms. Allersmeyer.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to consider Resolution 2014-04 regarding economic revitalization area for Tate & Lyle. Mr. Carson.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. You have before you the resolution confirming the ERA and tax abatement for Tate & Lyle. ERA and the tax abatement are both for 7 years. At our last meeting last month, we had a presentation by Chris Olson and Kevin Nieberge of Tate & Lyle. They're here tonight if you have any questions, and also Jody Hamilton from Greater Lafayette Commerce.
Thank you. Any question from council of Mr. Carson or the people he mentioned? Thank you, Dennis.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from members of the audience regarding this resolution for Tate & Lyle? Seeing none, any final thoughts or comments?
I would have
Mr.
a
Campbell?
question. There's been, it seems like a constant question about pollution, sound pollution, and some other kinds of pollution. Is there any part of this money going to address any of those problems?
Is there anyone from Tate & Lyle or Mr. Carson can address that?
My name is Kevin Nieberge. I'm the plant manager at Tate & Lyle. As part of the new construction, certainly we have to apply for a permit with the state. And the state has requirements around the amount of emissions we can have. Certainly we will be within all those compliances. As far as the noise, we will continue to put noise arresters and silencers on our equipment to try to minimize the noise impact on the community. So that's an ongoing effort, and we'll continue to do that. I'm not sure what other parts of your question have.
That's fine. I think you've done very well in addressing some of those problems,
Okay.
and I think it's appreciated by the community area as well as the people on this particular council. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Kevin, I think you also continue to have some regular meetings with the neighbors. Did you have one more just recently?
We had one about 2 months ago. Is that right?
I thought.
Yeah. And had a couple of city councilmen here. Were there, a couple of neighbors. But they've been pretty lightly attended, I'll say that.
We appreciate your efforts continuing to do
Okay.
that and keep the neighbors involved.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions?
All right, any other final comments? We'll have a roll call vote on the resolution.
Heidi.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Allersmeyer.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Thank you. The resolution is approved. The reports of standing committees, having heard no objections from any of you from the last meeting, so I'm going to reappoint each of you to the standing committees as you were last year.
We're stuck.
Good.
It's your fault for not speaking up. I don't think we have any reports of special committees outstanding. We move, I guess, now to the mayor and his state of the city. Mr. Downing, did you want to comment?
If you guys do that, I'm going to talk even slower. But I got to actually talk a little bit faster because when I met with Chris today, I told him it was only 11 and a half minutes, and it's actually 12 and a half minutes. He said he'd stay if it was only 11 and a half, but it's actually 12 minutes. So I'm going to have to maybe speed up the pace just a little bit. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, citizens of Lafayette, and those in attendance tonight, it's with a deep sense of gratitude that I present to you my State of the City address. I would like to thank the City Council, Board of Works, and all our boards and commissions for all their efforts in keeping our community moving forward and being a citizen-driven organization. I want to thank all the department heads, the city team members. I can tell you that we have the most dedicated city employees that you will find anywhere. They care about the community, they care about the citizens, and they take great pride in their work. And I am honored and humbled to work with them and to work beside them. A community is comprised of many parts, but the core is always the same. It's the citizens. And we have the greatest citizens in the world. I know all of you feel the same way, but I will say it again and again, Lafayette is special. The strength, the kindness, compassion, the innovation, the can-do spirit that shines through in countless ways every day. Tonight, my presentation will be comprised of two distinct parts. The first will be discuss our city finances, do a brief rundown of significant projects in 2013 and major projects for 2014. The second part will be a community conversation, discussing our human capital and those barriers and issues we must address for our community to truly reach its fullest potential. First, we are in sound financial condition. We continue to live within our means and yet provide tremendous city services. From managing the general fund to the utility budgets to our TIF districts, we utilize sound financial principles, forward thinking, strategic planning, and our underlying goal is always the same, improving the lives of our citizens. We have cash balances in our operating funds and continue to responsibly purchase equipment, maintain our facilities, and improve our infrastructure. As you know, last month we put an additional $300,000 into the rainy day fund, bringing our total to $2.8 million. 2013 was a record-setting year. For the first time in our history, the Lafayette area MSA, there was over $1 billion of new private and public investment in 1 year. It is a staggering amount, but was made possible by an outstanding business community, a tremendous labor force, unprecedented cooperation between all governmental units, Lafayette Commerce, and the unwavering commitment of our citizens. We saw announcements for SIA, Heartland Automotive, the opening of the new beautiful Lafayette Community Bank downtown. Nanshan began producing aluminum, and the expansion of A-Cell, just to name a few. We saw significant progress on our Gerkes Run Earl Avenue project and substantial completion of the stormwater park at Jefferson High School. A portion of Union Street was reconstructed, and we established our first true bike lane. Chatham Square was brought to full completion, and the entire neighborhood was improved. We announced the Main Street LLC project, which will transform the old home hospital site into a new $14 million beautiful rehabilitation facility. Veterans Memorial Parkway was widened and a trail added from Concord Road to US 52 to meet the continuing growth in our certified shovel-ready industrial park. The Lafayette MSA was ranked #1 in Indiana and #8 nationally in Fortune's Best Place for Small Business, #2 in Indiana for STEM job density, and #20 for Best Small City ranking by the Milken Institute. Although we still have work to do, we finished 2013 with a 5.5 unemployment rate in the Lafayette MSA. So I'm going to use just a little prop there. Those are the kind of headlines we like to see. Jobless rate at a 5-year low. We are moving in the right direction, but we will not quit until everyone who wants to work can find a job. And I am optimistic about our future. 2014 will be an extremely busy year. Work will begin on the next phase of Sagamore Parkway from Beach Drive to the entrance of Home Depot. Significant work will begin on the actual reconstruction of Earl Avenue. We are making progress on redeveloping the Midwest Rental site in the historic Centennial neighborhood. We are moving forward with our bicycle-friendly community master plan, and we begin 2014 with 18 miles of trails completed and another 5 miles planned over the next 2 years, which will bring our total to 23 miles. Matchbox, our community's co-working space, and our most significant step to truly make the greater Lafayette area the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovation will be a reality. The Wabash River Enhancement Corporation continues with land acquisition and is moving forward with looking at the reuse of the old municipal golf course. The once blighted Queen Anne block will become an upscale downtown living experience to complement Matchbox and the opening of the new Regions Bank later this year. In addition, we are working to maintain and improve an iconic structure in our community, the John T. Myers Bridge, for generations to come. You will also see the beginning of construction on South 18th Street from Veterans Memorial Parkway to 430 South, which will include a trail, a pedestrian bridge, and a roundabout. In my final segment this evening, I want to go back over the last 2 State of the City addresses. In 2012, I talked about the heart and soul of our city. I asked people to consider volunteering, to be a mentor for a child, to help stop child abuse, to help address mental illness issues. How do we develop our human capital? I concluded by indicating that night that it was a call to action. Last year in 2013, I gave you my version of the top 10 issues to move our community forward, one person at a time. I talked about cultivating the human spirit. How do we move people from poverty to self-sufficiency? How do we increase mental health services? I spoke of restoring pride in doing an honest day's work. I used the phrase where work ethic is as admired as much as athletic ability. I spoke about our education, and it was time to quit pointing fingers and truly prepare our children for the future, and that's not a score on a standardized test, and supporting and fairly compensating our teachers for instructing, nurturing, and supporting our most precious resource, our children. We also discussed pride in our neighborhood. And the good news is there are many programs taking place in the community to address these issues. But the reality is we still need more involvement. We need you. I believe it is important that I keep bringing these issues forward. So tonight I'm going to touch on 2 key areas that I think are critical, and as a community, we must push forward on. And again, I begin with education. From early childhood development, pre-K through high school, technical certifications, 2 or 4-year degrees, we must develop proper pathways for our students. Education must be adequately funded. It must be valued, celebrated. Graduating from high school and then receiving some additional training must become the community expectation. In addition, we must truly value our teachers. Besides parents, no one is going to have more influence over our children than their teachers. Read to Succeed is a tremendous example of what a community can do and is a huge success. But that kind of innovation and spirit must be carried into other areas of our educational system. We need everyone's involvement, whether it's being a mentor, a parent or grandparent who's simply helping with homework, volunteering in the school, or making our voices known at the State House. that we want an educational system that works and meets the needs of our individual communities. Number 2, strengthening the middle class. I believe it's imperative that we work on helping to create jobs that allow families and individuals to enjoy a decent quality of life and not require government assistance. That we set economic goals and expectations that give our citizens the opportunity that, if they are willing to work hard, make good decisions, and be lifelong learners, to move up the social economic ladder. We must work diligently and focus to continue a business environment which allows significant investments to be made in our community that creates jobs that allow people to climb out of poverty and raises the median income in our community. So tonight, I again call everyone to action, to put your heart and soul to work for Lafayette. I ask your help in achieving the goals I discussed in 2012 and 2013, and again tonight, in particular, our 2 primary goals: continuing to develop an education system that works for all students, develops the workforce needed now and in the future, and gives our children the skills to be productive adults. To strengthen our middle class, which I believe will strengthen our families, reduce poverty, will help reduce the number of people who are food insecure, and create an expanded base of community involvement. Most of you know me, I'm an optimist. I see the glass all the way full and running over. And I believe our best days are yet to come, and I believe we'll achieve our ultimate goal, which is to improve the quality of life for all our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Well stated, and I appreciate your call to action and challenging our citizens. That's always very inspiring. Thank you. Moving on now to miscellaneous and new business. I don't think we have any. Departmental update, and this month we have a report from Mr. Kerry Smith of Waterworks Superintendent.
Good evening, Kerry Smith, Lafayette Waterworks. Pardon me, that's kind of a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. Some of the things that we're working on at Waterworks, so far this season, are what we call our broken main season, which usually runs from October to March or April. So far this year, we've had 58 broken water mains. We generally average about 65. We've still got most of February, March, and into April to go. Last year, calendar year, we had 79. So we're probably working on a record. It's the constant change in temperature that's doing it to us. The pikes and the spikes. It's just a lot of ground movement because the frost never came until later, and then the frost it moves the ground and things break. 3 of our meter routes that we have changed to a new type of meter we're using that's made by a company called Neptune, and it's a radio read. We had 3 of those routes that contained 1,742 meters, and during the last big snow event, under all that snow, with the radio, we read those meters all but 14, which that probably we would have not been able to read half of those and had to estimate them, which we've had to estimate several meters with all the snow that you have to manually read because we just can't get to them because they're under so much snow. So this radio read technology is really wonderful. In 2014, we're going to continue to change meters. We plan on changing 3,000 more meters this year. The first meter change that we had in the late 90s, we were at 18% unaccounted for water, meaning that of all the water that we pump versus the water we sell, 18% of it's lost somewhere. Most of that's in metering. So when we changed the meters last time, we went from 18% unaccounted for water down to less than 6%. for every 1% of unaccounted for water we find, Waterworks gains about $75,000 to $80,000 in revenue a year. Having said that, when you look at it in water pollution controls aspect, they gain about $270,000 a year for every 1% we find. So 6%, 7% is considered industry standard to be a good tight system because you have other uses that aren't metered, such as fire department, swimming pools, things of this nature. We have been as low as 3. We started to see a creep back up, which instituted the decision to change the meters again, and they indeed pay for themselves. There's no doubt about that. Our new SCADA system for our plant down at Canal Road has been built and bench tested and should be in by the end of February. Our existing SCADA system was Y2K. It was put in right before Y2K, so that's how old it is. So it's dying. It's getting tired, so we're going to replace that. Last year we installed a natural gas generator out at Fire 9 at the training center. That is in the event of a power failure that will run that facility in the event. And last year we drilled and performed pumping tests on 5 wells out at the Aritz Airport site. We, from pumping those wells out there, determined we can expect about 5 million gallons of water a day from that facility. So right now we're ready to pump about 22 million gallons a day. We sell about 10, so this gives us a lot of extra expansion for the south side of town and the east side of town where the expansion is. And during all this, we've been plowing snow since we've had all this weather, so we've been kind of busy. But I would entertain any questions anyone would have.
A couple, I'm sorry, somebody else?
Oh, go ahead.
Approximately, I know every water main that breaks is different. How many men and or women does it take to repair that main, and what's the length of time they're involved in that?
They can run anywhere from 2 hours to 12. It depends on whether you are. We had one on 52 Saturday night. We started on it about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the guys went home about 2 the following afternoon. So that one was a long one. It was a tough one to work on, and we've had them that are in grass areas that might take us an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, but it's usually 4 to 5 people.
I see. And you mentioned there that this unmetered water. Do we fill up swimming pools without a charge of people? You mentioned swimming pools in the fire department.
Well, we're supposed to meter everything that goes into swimming pools, but as far as the fire department goes, and any new construction that we do, and also our hydrant flushing, none of that's metered. So we can estimate what that is, but that's all it is. It's an estimate.
And the last thing, you mentioned Aritz Airport. Is that still the Pearl River, and is there another river that...
It's not the Pearl River, it's the Taze River.
Taze River.
Taze River, yes. Yes, it's still in the Taze River. It's the same one that Lafayette's in, Purdue's in, West Lafayette's in. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just going back on the swimming pool, private in-ground swimming pools, those
That's
are metered.
That's metered.
So when you're talking about swimming pools, you mean like the city
Yes.
pools?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from council members?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Appreciate the report. We also have on the agenda, Chief Flannelly wanted to make a few announcements to the council.
Good evening, Patrick Flannelly, Chief of Police. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize the accomplishments of one of our employees, Lieutenant Brad Bishop. He was not able to make it tonight unless he snuck in here at the end, but he is retiring from our SWAT team, and the reason why I thought it was important to point out is the tremendous dedication that our men and women, not just on the SWAT team, but all of our collateral duty assignments, those assignments take them away from their family and their regular working hours, and the operations of the department would be really impacted if we didn't have that commitment to go above and beyond. And just to kind of put it in perspective for Lieutenant Bishop and his commitment, our SWAT team trains twice a month on average of 12 to 16 hours per month, just to meet national standards for training for collateral duty assignment teams. So in the course of 16 years, we're looking at approximately just over 3,000 hours of training, which is almost an entire year, working year, if we were to make that just a sole assignment. So I'm really proud of the accomplishments that he's brought to the team and the level of professionalism that we continue to expand upon. Our SWAT team, if we recall, just last fall took first place in the Indiana SWAT Officers Association competition, which is a highly competitive competition with teams from all over the state and around the Midwest that compete. And just in his tenure, we had several other top 3 finishes. So anyway, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize his sacrifice and his service.
Chief, go ahead. One question, ask it every year. Do you have the weaponry that is needed to, how should I say this, to compete against the people that are out there that maybe are better equipped than some police departments?
Yes, we have all the tools that we need. Now, with that being said, you just never know. There's no guarantees, unfortunately. People come up with some pretty crazy stuff. So we do train well. We do have several options.
Thank you, Chief. And I think it would be appropriate, Cindy, if you could put together a letter on behalf of the council thanking Lieutenant Bishop for his service on the SWAT team. We could send and recognize his service. Thank you. All right, any reports of city councilmen? Public comment. This is the portion of our meeting that we would like to open it up for members of the audience to come and address us with any concerns or questions or thoughts that you may have on your mind. I would remind you of our local rules is that your comments are requested to be limited to 3 minutes. With that said, anyone in the public or the audience would like to come and make any comments before us this evening? Harry, I knew you would. You won't disappoint. That's good.
Perry Barber, 3700 Redbud. And first of all, I got to say I apologize for last month. I could not believe you guys was here, Mr. Camber.
We're going to stay quite long after this. We're going to have a filibuster. Apparently there's a snowfall coming in tomorrow evening, and I want Mr. Meyer to have the opportunity.
No, that was unbelievable. But I wanted to thank the crew, the water, the street, everyone that did a outstanding job. We could be sit back in an easy chair and say that could be better. Sure, everything could be better, but I think with the amount of snow we had this winter, I think they did a decent job. I wouldn't want their job. I think they've been doing a great job. I got I want to put a bug in everyone's ear that's listening tonight, or when we get some more snow. On houses, residential houses, if you don't own them and you still, no one lives there, but you still own them, please shovel them. Children has to walk by the house. Elderly has to get their groceries. You're not being considerate by not taking the time to shove them. You may not live in that neighborhood, but everyone else does. And it is in the city code that they still have to be shoveled, and they're not being done. Most of these, I will take the time to shovel the elderly. Maybe I should do the ones that the landlords or the people that don't live there, the unoccupied houses. We need to crack down on that. And another peeve I got lately, fire hydrant, we may hope we never have to use it. Try to shove let it get suction out for the firemen can use it. I've been doing that around my neighborhood. Everyone just be safe. These couple of storms that we got coming, I could go on, but just be safe and have a great year.
Thank you, Perry. And
Great job tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Perry.
Perry, you said you would take some time to shovel some elderlies.
I do, Mayor.
Can you
Skyline Road. Start on that one.
Say what?
1734 Skyline Road. Start on that one.
Can I put my campaign displays in there then?
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. President, I noticed that the clerk has a rather raspy voice tonight, and 2 aspirin, a lot of orange juice. I'll send you a bill for $60 I will return.
Mr. Heidi.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.